Hi everyone. I wanted to walk you through some of the steps in using a Google quiz with your students and then taking the data that they generate and making instructional decisions based on it. So first, I'm going to go into my Drive and I'm going to make a Google form. I'm going to fast forward through all of this so you'll see it really quickly, but I'm going to go through all the steps in how I make a really quick Google quiz that I might use with students. Okay, now you can see I've made a really quick Google form. There are 3 questions on it that I might have kids do at the end of a lesson or during a lesson so that I can have a quick check for understanding and know what they have learned and what they still need to work on. My next step is to turn on quizzes for this. So you can see I'm going to go to quizzes. I'm going to make this a quiz. And I have all these options for what sort of feedback students get and when they get it. So I'm going to leave all this stuff turned on and I'm going to click save. My next step is to go through and tell Google what the correct answers are in my quiz. And I'm going to fast forward this part too. Okay, so I now have the correct answers put into Google. You can see that this is out of 3 points. My next step would be to share this with my students. I'm going to generate fake information for you so that you can see what I'm looking at, but what you would do is give this to your students. You have a couple of different ways of doing that. You can click on this preview eye over here, and you can see the public version of the form. This is the one that I would share with students on Google Classroom or however else you want to do that. You could also click this send button here. And in here you can send email. So if you have a group already set up with your students, you could post it there. So those are all great options. As I mentioned, I'm going to generate some fake information right now. So I'm going to fast forward through this part as well, and then we'll have some data to work with. So you can see if I click on the responses here, I have some data on what students have done. So it gives me these bar graphs. If I scroll down, you can see where my students are falling on here. You can also see more of this information by clicking into the spreadsheet part. So you'll create a new spreadsheet and all the data will be on here. I'm going to add a couple more submissions on here just to make it a little bit easier to get an idea of what we're looking at. Okay, now you can see that I have some data that my fake students have generated. You can see they're sort of all over the place with this, and one easy way that I can immediately come in here and group them is by this score part. So if I highlight this, I can sort the sheet from A to Z. So you can see it's now grouped my students based on their performance on here. So I have some students who've gotten 0 out of 3 and some who have 3 out of 3. So what I might do here is group these two. And I usually do this with dumping color in it. So this would be my yellow group. This might be my orange group. And this might be my blue group. So you can see there are these 3 color bands that I've done, and maybe I do 4 sometimes, maybe I do 2, but this is grouping my students for me. So if these are my students' names, I might hide this column here. And I could also hide all of these so that students wouldn't be able to see how the other students scored. And then this is something that I could just post on my display in my classroom, whether it's a smartboard or a Promethean or whatever I have. And that way I don't have to make something extra. I can just put that up there, tell the students to get into the groups, and then when they get to me, I can use this data to inform the instructional decisions that I'm going to make with them. So I know that with this group, the yellow group, they've mastered all of this content. So there's really no reason for me to keep teaching this over and over again. We can move on to something else or talk about something that they're interested in. This orange group, they missed one of the 3 questions, so we can really focus on the one thing that they missed. Whereas in this group, some of these kids missed all of the questions. So there are some real issues going on here. So I really want to spend some time getting into why these students are understanding what's going on and maybe think about teaching them in a different way. So this is a really simple way of using a Google form that you turn into a quiz, give it to your students, and then sort the data that you get out of it. There are a lot of more advanced ways you can go about doing this. There's an add-on called Super Quiz that can be really, really helpful, but you don't have to do anything more exciting than it is. You can dump colors in these. You don't even have to do that. You could print this and cut it out. You could just tell kids what group they're going to be in and ask them to get in the groups. So it can be pretty simple, and it can be extremely effective in using the data that your students are generating to make instructional decisions in your class. I hope this helps you continue to develop toward personalizing learning in your classroom.